The following is a special presentation of the World Baseball Classic. High noon in Tokyo. Pool B, day 2. Cuba, loser last night, and China wants a piece of the Cubans today. And that's
Cuba.
Our matchup.
Cuba.
Ready to start the day in Pool B after a big win last night by Japan. They are 1-0. Cuba turns right around. China's first game of the 2017 World Baseball Classic. Hi everybody, Rich Waltz along with Buck Martinez. Welcome back to Tokyo. What a scene here last night with a great win by Japan. And it puts Cuba in a position, Buck, where they come into this China game with a lot of pressure on it.
Well, there certainly is a lot of pressure on Cuba. They don't want to go down 0-2 in this tournament, and it's a quick turnaround. But Cuba actually swung the bats pretty well last night. They had 11 hits, scored 6 runs, but they kicked it around in the field. If they make those kinds of mistakes today against China, China's liable to take advantage of that. China is going to need all the breaks they can get playing against this veteran Cuban team.
One of the real cool things about the World Baseball Classic, discovering players that you've not heard of or haven't had a chance to see. And Yoelqui Cespedes, brother of Yoenis Cespedes, was the guy we saw last night. What did you think?
Well, I thought he was very impressive. He's 19 years old and certainly doesn't look like a teenager playing in this great tournament. He stayed on the breaking ball very well, and in this 9th inning at bat, I thought he did a terrific job of staying on the slider down and away and ripped it into right. He's got speed, he's got power. 3 for 4 night with a double in the ball game. He started the game in right field. Then he moved to center to finish up defensively. He's got enough speed to play center field. He's got a terrific arm, and he charges the ball very well in the outfield. This kid's got a bright future for sure.
China in such a different situation than Cuba. John McLaren, former Major League manager, currently a coach on Pete Maccannon's staff in Philadelphia, has done a wonderful job of trying to nurture and bring baseball to this great nation. Now, they had a win in 2013 that gets him into this tournament, and he gives the ball to a Major League veteran.
Well, this is a great story. Bruce Chin, who has had 17 seasons in the big league, he's pitched for 11 different Major League ball clubs, and he said, you know what, this might be the most pressure-packed start of my career. He's very proud of the fact that his grandparents came from China, and he gets the opportunity to represent them pitching in the World Baseball Classic. Bruce was born in Panama, so he pitched for Panama in 06 and 09 in the World Baseball Classic. And he told us that he wishes his grandparents were still alive because he knows how proud they would have been having seen him represent their native country, China, pitching in this World Baseball Classic. He is really pleased to have this honor today to open up the tournament for China.
Well, the bats are here for Ray Chang and the Chinese. There's pressure on Cuba. First of 2 today from Tokyo. Lineup's first pitch coming up.
China has rallied for a run. They've got the bags loaded.
Line drive, left center field. It's a base hit. Scoring is Shui. Ju comes through, and China takes the lead. Ray Chang has done it. That was a substantial upset back in 2013 when China took down the Barry Larkin-led Brazil team. A win in the World Baseball Classic qualifies you for the next one. And so Ray Chang twice has delivered China to this tournament. But they have a tall task in facing a very good Cuban team. There's a look at Chang right now. The rest of that China starting lineup. Zhen Honglu in right. Fujia Chu is at first. Chang, long time in the minor leagues and a favorite of many organizations, is at third. Wei Chang Meng is in left field. Shuni Yang in center. Joey Wong, who played shortstop at Oregon State for a national championship team, is at short for China. Wei Wong is the catcher. Shuang Na is the designated hitter. And Shou Wei Du is at second base.
On the mound for Cuba in this very important start, trying to even their record at 1-1, is Vladimir Baños. In 14 starts last season in Cuba, he had a 7-4 record. ERA a little bit inflated, nearly at 4. Not an overpowering pitcher, but he's a veteran of 11 seasons, a guy that really understands the significance of this game. He needs to pitch ahead to an inexperienced Chinese lineup. He's got a fastball, curve, slider, and a changeup, and he threw a no-hitter in the Serie Nacional in Cuba back in 2010. But if you allow these Chinese hitters to get the count in their favor, they could have some pretty good swings. They are very inexperienced, obviously, but John McLaren, the manager, told us they're getting better and better each day, and that is the theme for Team China. Just get better every day.
Such a contrast in these two teams. You've got China, as you noted, new to baseball. There have been guys like Terry Collins who have gone in and managed this Chinese team. You've got John McLaren, who's managed here as well. And in the fundamentals, they are still drilling. They're not heavy on baseball experience or baseball savvy. Zhenhong Liu in right field, and he takes a fastball down low from Vladimir Baños. And then, of course, you've got Cuba, steeped in baseball history, with all the savvy that you can get, especially in international play. And that one driven to left. Despagne is back, and he makes the catch. Good swing by Zhenhong Liu.
Yeah, that's exactly what I had mentioned in the scouting report about these Chinese hitters. You give them the favorable count, and they'll put the ball in play.
Love the music for the defense here for Cuba.
In the outfield, Despagne and Santos, the center fielder, made two terrific catches last night. Cespedes, a very good outfielder. Graciel Ayala Benitez and Saavedra around the infield. The veteran Frank Morejon doing the catching for Cuba.
Now, Fujia Chu for China. There is a baseball league in China, and many of these players train at the academies. Major League Baseball has funded academies, 3 academies, development centers, if you will, in China. And there are 8 teams in the Chinese Pro League. One of the great stadiums, the Tiananmen Dodgers Stadium. Peter O'Malley of the Dodgers funded construction of it back in the mid-'80s. So that's the start of baseball in China. And as we noted, they've won 2 games in the World Baseball Classic. And both of those games, Ray Chang was enormous. A home run to beat Chinese Taipei in '09, and that RBI single you saw to take down Brazil in 2013.
Well, Chu's the first baseman. This is his 3rd World Baseball Classic. He's got some experience, and many people believe that not only Ray Chang might be playing in his last baseball tournament, but Chu and, of course, Bruce Chen, the starter for China. This all might be their swan song.
Yeah, last baseball game period at any level and in any competition. And Chu, the 27-year-old, and a big guy at 6'3", 220. Chases a breaking ball in the dirt. Morejon digs it out and throws him out.
Yeah, that's the thing about pitching ahead. When you pitch ahead, you can throw those breaking balls. They don't have to be strikes, and you might get some wild swings from these hitters. Baños is experienced enough to understand. Throw that fastball, get ahead, and then you can drop the curveball on them. Even though it bounces in the dirt, he gets the strikeout.
And so here is Ray Chang now for his first at bat. Vladimir Baños has 2 quick outs here in the first, and that's good news for Cuba, who had to go deep in their bullpen. 6 pitchers worked in the loss to Japan last night. Chang's mom and dad met at a restaurant in Hong Kong, and they moved to the United States and opened a restaurant in Kansas City, and that's where Ray was born. 12 years in the minor leagues and some really good numbers in the minor leagues, some big moments. A lot of organizations that he played for love him and respect him. Last 4 years he was with the Reds organization. In 2011 with the Minnesota Twins, he was told he was going to the big leagues after the game. And in that game at shortstop, he ventured into shallow left field for a pop-up, and the left fielder slid in and broke his leg. Chang lifts it in the air to right field. Charging in, Cespedes. It's Benitez who makes the catch. China goes 1-2-3. The return of Bruce Chen when we return. Ready to go, China and Cuba. Bruce Chen on his way out, and he'll face a veteran Cuban lineup. We saw him last night. Raul Santos leads it off. He was 1 for 2 last night. Alexander Ayala, Frederick Cepeda, Alfredo Despaigne in left field. Willen Saavedra is at first base. Yurisbel Gracial at third. Carlos Benitez at second. Frank Morojo, the catcher. And Yulke Cespedes is in the 9 spot. And Chen fires a strike. Buck Martinez, the big question is, he hasn't thrown in a major league game since May of 15. What do you expect out of Chen today?
I expect Bruce to throw as many strikes as possible. He knows that he's limited to 49 pitches. You see his career record, 17 seasons in the major leagues, lots of experience. He's pitched for 11 different big league ball clubs. But Bruce understands he doesn't have a whole lot of pitches and really doesn't have time to settle into the game. He needs to pound the strike zone as quickly as possible.
2-1 the count. Raul Santos, left-handed hitter. Now the reason it's 49 pitches is John McLaren is so thin with pitching. He'd like to bring Chen back to pitch in game 3. And with it's a pretty good pitch. It's not called there. Soon Wan Choi is the home plate umpire. Chen wants to talk with his catcher.
And he's bringing Ray Chang over to help interpret, as possibly wants Wei Wong, the catcher, just to sit more in the middle of the plate and see if he can't get a couple of these close pitches.
If he throws 50 pitches, because of the pitch count limit in the first round, he won't be able to pitch the rest of the round. But if he throws 49, John McLaren can bring him back later in the tournament.
This is his 3rd WBC, and we mentioned his 17 years of experience. Pitching for 11 different teams, and quick outs, that's important. We talk about the pitch count. He's got to keep that number at 49 to stay eligible for this first round.
Chopper towards second, a little short hop pick there by Du, and he gets the outs. Nicely done.
One thing that this team does very well is they catch the ball, especially on the infield. Bruce Chen understands that. He's got to put it in play. Wei Chung Mong is in left field, Shou-Ni Wong in center, and Jin Hong Lu in right. Ray Chang is at third base. Joey Wong, shortstop, got good hands up the middle, and Shou-Wei Du, he too is a very good defender. Fu Jia Chu is at first, and the veteran Wei Wong is behind the plate for Bruce Chen.
Alexander Ayala for Cuba, and Chen misses in. Cuba last night had 6 runs on 11 hits, but they gave up 11 to Japan. The big blows for Cuba. Smoked over the head of Chang and down into the corner. Meng picks it out, and a solid double by Alexander Ayala to open his day here in Tokyo.
Ayala was 0 for 4 in the game last night, but he had an RBI, and he starts his game this afternoon with a double down the line. Chen trying to come inside and leaves it out over the plate a bit. Ayala turns on it and drills it down the left field corner.
Now, Chen told us yesterday that because of the pitch count and because China is so thin on pitching, he is approaching these 49 pitches like it's the 7th inning of a postseason game. He doesn't have time to settle in. He's not going to concede a run to get an out. He has to do everything he can, he said, to prevent any runs. And here is Cepeda. Switch hitter, the DH.
Changeup missed down and away, and we asked Bruce Chen how he felt in his exhibition start against the Oryx Buffaloes. He said, I felt great. He said, I rebounded after that start. He started throwing for this tournament in December.
And sent John McLaren video of him throwing just to reassure the manager that he was all in and ready to go.
Bruce now works for the Cleveland Indians. He lives in Arizona, so he was able to work out at the Indians facility. They allowed him to throw bullpens. He had a catcher. He got himself into great shape, and he's pretty optimistic about what he might be able to do here in this tournament.
When Chen showed up to camp, he brought along not necessarily gifts, but things for his Chinese teammates. A lot of Cleveland Indian caps, gear, stuff that he was able to grab and get from the Indians and other teams and bring to his teammates. 3-1 pitch. And this is not what Chen had in mind, nor John McLaren, and that is 13 pitches in and just 1 out here in the first. And here's why we're talking about Chen and 49 pitches. Here are the rules. For a starting pitcher, 65 pitches in round 1, but rest restriction is the appropriate thing here. If you're under 50, you avoid that 4-day off. And a lot of managers in the World Baseball Classic and their bench coaches will have this little reminder on their scorecards to make sure they have pitching later. And for John McLaren, it's really a necessity. And that pitch is in, and it pops out of the glove of Wei Wong. He runs it down, and holding second base is Ayala.
Yeah, and Dave Bush, the pitching coach for the Chinese team, is going to come out and have a chat with Bruce Chen. Right now, he's just overthrowing it a bit, and he's certainly missing his spots. That goes off the glove of Wei Wong, but the runner at second, Ayala, holds his ground with Despaigne hitting. And here's Dave Bush, a former Major League pitcher who is the pitching coach for Team China.
This is look, it's the first inning, but this is a tipping point in this ball game. If China wants to hang in there, they've got to find a way to get Despaigne out and Saavedra out without giving up runs. And that's a quick visit from Bush.
Bush was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays, a second-round draft pick in 2002, and he made his debut in 2004. He and Bruce Chen were actually teammates, so he knows Bruce very well, trying to help him out, get him out of this tough first-inning jam.
As powerful a hitter as you've got here in this pool, and Despaigne takes a strike, and it's 1-1.
Despaigne took a while to get going in last night's game. He had a walk and a ground out in his first 2 at-bats.
His blast was to right center last night. And Chen catches the corner. It's a big pitch for him. Now it's 1-2.
Right now, of course, China's hoping for a ground ball, see if they can't get out of this inning with a double play.
Sounded like it caught him, although the home plate umpire, Sun-Wan Choi, did not react.
Looked like it went behind him, and Despaigne wasn't sure which way to go. It did go behind him, and Wei Wong caught it behind Despaigne. Despaigne trying to settle to the umpire that it hit him, but you know as well as I do, Despaigne wants to hit. He doesn't want to take first base being hit by a pitch. The umpire is from Korea.
Yeah, you've got a Korean umpire talking to an American managing China, and so you have an interpreter out there as well. I don't think there was a warning, and I'm not sure why McLaren is out.
McLaren might be trying to get Despaigne hit by the pitch so he doesn't swing the bat. So now they're going to have a conference. Todd Tischner,
or
second base umpire.
Or did
he swing at it?
Yeah, that's the question. McLaren may be wanting an appeal down to first to see if he swung.
Todd Tischner, the second base umpire, worked home plate in the game last night. Larry Vanover Another Major League umpire is at first. Let's take a look at the swing. Did he swing at this pitch? Certainly not even an attempt. I don't think he initiated that swing at all, just trying to get out of the way. The bat traveled, but I don't think there was any intent whatsoever to swing at it.
Yeah, the rule for umpires, in their mind, did the batter strike at the ball?
John McLaren knows he's got to do whatever he can to get these hitters out. He went out and said, hey, man, he swung at that.
Counts 2-2, Chen and Despagne. Now this was yesterday, and this was a prototypical Cuban home run by a right-handed hitter. Just a bolt to right center.
That snapped a streak of 12 straight Cuban batters retired by Team Japan, and he hit a bullet, and that was the first of 4 straight hits for Cuba. They scored 3 runs on 5 hits in that 7th inning, but Japan came right back and answered with 2 runs of their own in the bottom of the 7th to continue to stretch out that lead.
Another visit from Wei Wong. Now Despagne is not only a hero in Cuba, but also here in Japan. 3 years with the Chiba Marines, and just signed a 3-year contract with the Fukuoka SoftBank Hawks. Off speed, got him. That's an enormous strikeout for Bruce Chen. He still has some magic in that left arm.
Well, and he went out and he called his catcher out and said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to throw a big changeup right here, and you can see he turns it over and gets the swing and a miss from Despagne. What a great pitch for Chen to get this powerful hitter out with 2 aboard.
Well, still an out to get William Saavedra, the hitter for Cuba. Saavedra at first base, 35-year-old. There's a lot of veterans on this Cuban team, many more than we saw in 2013. Sharply hit on the ground, and Wong flips to second, and Bruce Chen, it took 21 pitches, but he gets through the first. We are scoreless in Pool B. They call this place the Big Egg. Tokyo Dome last night, 45,000 sellout for Japan and Cuba. You've got China and Cuba here. It's a noon start in Japan, and later tonight we've got Japan and Australia, and another sellout expected.
They were lined up this morning to get standing room only tickets for that game tonight, with Team Japan playing their 2nd game in the tournament.
China goes to work here. Wei Chang Meng is the left fielder, and he takes outside. You've got Shuni Yang and Joey Wong coming up as well.
Meng won the Triple Crown in Chinese baseball in 2016. He had 458 in 96 at-bats with 6 homers and 31 ribbies. Misses that fastball.
In 2006, Jim Lefevre managed China. They were 0-3. Terry Collins in 09, and they got a win. That was the Ray Chang home run game against Chinese Taipei. That one in the air to center. Santos had quite a night last night defensively in center field. He makes the catch, and there's 1 out here in the 2nd.
Santos made 2 terrific catches in the outfield. A first inning catch off Hayato Sakamoto to save 2 runs, and he made another catch off Aoki in the 4th to end that scoring threat. He can really run and go get him, and you can see him talking about that ball up against this light colored roof here at Tokyo Dome. Sometimes it's a challenge in day games.
Yes, for you Major League fans with some age on you, you can remember the Metrodome. Although, unlike the Metrodome, remember Bob Casey, the great PA announcer that used to shout, "No smoking in the Metrodome." There is a little of that here. Breaking ball, swing and a miss. It's kind of a mix of Tropicana Fields in St. Pete and the old Metrodome in terms of structure, architecture, and roof. Drive down the right field line in the corner. Cespedes disappears from view and did not come up with a catch.
Yoki Cespedes, very good player, just 19 years old, and he started in the game last night in right field. He's got great speed, really charges the ball well, and we saw his arm once he moved to center. He's got a cannon for an arm, really throws the ball very well.
Shuni Yang is, in terms of speed, one of the quickest on this Chinese team. He led the league, the Chinese Baseball League, in stolen bases, so John McLaren would love to get him on base.
McLaren told his team all throughout their lead up to this tournament, he said, hey, we're not just happy to be here. We're going to try to win games, and whatever it takes to win, we'll give it a shot. McLaren said he just really didn't know how his team was going to react playing against the Cuban ball club. They lost to Cuba 12-0 the last time they faced him. And Johnny Mack, he's been around, as we mentioned. This is his second go-round as the manager for Team China. He managed for the Seattle Mariners in 07 and 08. He was my bench coach in 2006 in the inaugural World Baseball Classic. And he wanted to remind Pete Buchanan that indeed he is working. He's managing here in Tokyo, and he's not away from the Phillies to play golf or anyway. He said, tell Mac I am managing.
and of all the managers in the World Baseball Classic, his workload may be the heaviest with what he's trying to accomplish with China. A swing and a miss, and Baños with a sharp breaking ball has retired all 5 that he has faced.
Another breaking ball that's out of the strike zone, but Baños just throws that tantalizing pitch. Starts on the outside corner. It's a strike the ball breaking ball, and he gets Shuni Yang to chase it.
Joey Wong now. Now, Wong is a guy that has extensive experience in the minor leagues, major college experience as well. Out of Salem, Oregon, and spent last year in Albuquerque, AAA for the Rockies. That's a strike. Oregon State. And of course, Oregon State, when he was enrolling and committing there, was in the middle of back-to-back national championships. And Wong takes outside. Second base for the world, or not the world, the College World Series champions, the Beavers.
He was drafted in 2009, made it to AAA the last 2 years. He's also played in Australia, so he'll recognize some of his opponents when China plays Australia. And his college career, as Rich mentioned, won the World Series, College World Series in 2007. Played 8 seasons in the minor leagues.
Darwin Barney was his double play mate on that national championship team at Oregon State.
Breaking ball, he lays off. Joey Wong's dad has been a long time high school baseball coach. His family's here as well, and they're all really pleased to be here and see Joey play in this tournament. His dad played in the minor leagues with the Kansas City Royals, so they've been around baseball for quite a while.
Got a 2-2 pitch from Vladimir Baños. And he hits a 2-hopper out to second. Benitez fires to first. Vladimir Baños is sharp. Bruce Chen got through the first and is back out for the second. Glad you're with us. Pool B, Yurisbel Gracial for Cuba. Carlos Benitez, Frank Motorhone will follow. This was last night. And Gracial played pepper with the wall in center field.
And a doubled and scored in that 7th inning, and then this is a 2-run double in the 8th inning. Both balls going over Aoki's head in center field, and Had a little bit of a rough night in the field. He made a couple of throwing errors, but he started to swing the bat later on in the game. And it looked like it took the entire Cuban team to really get into the flow of things a little bit after the middle innings of that game last night.
Graciel, 31 years old. And a big breaking ball from Chen misses. 23 pitches for Bruce Chen. We talked about the 49 mark, which is what he's targeting. And a swing and a miss. And the reason it's 49 is if he gets to 50, he can't pitch the rest of this round. If he stops at 49, John McLaren will have him a little bit later this round. That changeup doesn't seem like it's been rusty at all from when he retired. That was a go-to pitch for him when he was in the big leagues for 17 years.
Yeah, he's got the confidence he can throw at any time, and there's the pitch count total for Bruce Chen. 25 pitches as he works here in the second inning. Another good changeup, and he'll sell it. He's got that great arm action, and he's confident to throw at any time. One thing that he's not really sure of is just how effective he can locate his fastball. We saw him miss badly to Despaigne in the first inning, threw it behind him.
Well, that was just setting up that changeup that struck Despaigne out. And he tried to sneak a fastball by him. Just a fascinating conversation with Chen yesterday about his big league career, his family's heritage, what it means to be pitching for China. That one is hit hard to left, and that's a base hit. And so Graciel continues to swing a nice bat here in the World Baseball Classic. It's a leadoff single.
It's his third straight hit going back to last night, but that breaking ball stayed up a little bit on Chen, and it's a leadoff single here in the second.
He is in his third World Baseball Classic, the first two for Panama, where he was born and raised. His grandparents from China. And he said to come back and wear this uniform, he just wishes that his grandparents were here to see it. Very emotional when he talked about it yesterday.
He actually was on the roster in 2013 for Team China, but they couldn't get the paperwork and validate the fact that his grandparents indeed came from China. He said when his grandparents came to Panama, they actually changed their name. The Panamanian government said, okay, this is going to be your Panamanian name. So there was a very difficult time of getting the documentations. And at the time, it took so long, they finally did get the documentation in 2013, but it was much too late for Chen to then commit to China, as he was already in spring training camp with his major league team.
Two of his daughters are here. Some parents are here. And his pitch count continues to escalate here at 29 pitches. Nobody out, bottom two, scoreless game. Graciel is at first.
Bruce's wife is pregnant, so she couldn't make the trip. She is in Arizona with their 2-year-old daughter. So he is very happy to have the majority of his family here. As Rich said, he's got two daughters here with his mom and dad, and they're all having quite a trip here to Japan.
So if it goes as planned, he's got 19 pitches left. The problem is he's only in the second. Benitez, Graciel at first base. As big a population as China has, and as successful as they've been in other sports, Olympic-style sports, baseball really never has taken hold there. But with Major League Baseball's involvement, little by little, you're starting to see some players develop in those development centers, academies, so to speak. And there are some players that scouts have seen. There have been able to take some of these players over to the United States to training camps. Runner goes, and it's pop fouling out of play.
Well, after this tournament, Ray Chang is going to go to China and run the Major League Development Camp in China. He's already been there. He's found living accommodations, and he's going to go over there and make a full-time commitment to advancing baseball in China. He will be in charge of the development program with the older teenagers and try to really advance their baseball skills.
Runner goes again, swing and a miss. Throw down to second is dropped by the second baseman. Du had to make an acrobatic catch and tag, and he never really had the ball, so Gracial gets the bag. Chen gets the strikeout, and there's one out. Growing baseball in China. We talked about the development centers, 3 of them. 90 players paid by Major League Baseball since the first center opened in 2009 have gone through there. The Orioles have a prospect trying to become the first Chinese player by birth and ancestry to reach the major leagues. And a 10-year national plan calls for quadrupling of stadiums and establishment of at least 5,000 players. And I think, Buck, as that one is fouled off the bat of Frank Morejon, with the success that Korea has had, Chinese Taipei has had, I think you get the sense that they would like to get along and get a piece of that.
Absolutely, and obviously you mentioned the population of China and the fact that they are terrific athletes in other sports. It's just a matter of developing their baseball skills to a level where they can compete with Chinese Taipei, Korea, and Japan.
All right, Morejon here, and an opportunity to give Cuba an early lead. Chen is rapidly running out of pitches. Yoelkis Cespedes is on deck. And this is a reinforcement of what we heard as far as a plan. The fact that China has a reliever ready in the bullpen. The bullpens, if you've not seen a game from the Tokyo Dome, are underneath the stands. So the only way you can see into the bullpen is by the special bullpen cameras. They're available to us, but they're also available to both dugouts. And so if you have a reliever up, you can watch and see and gauge if he's ready. As well, the opponent can see who is getting loose in the bullpen, so possible pinch hitters or strategy. It's not a surprise when the guy runs out of the runway and onto the mound.
Good block by Wei Wong as that break ball was in dirt as Gracial has to hold his ground at second. You know, you mentioned the TV monitors in the respective dugouts. It was the same situation at Skydome when it first opened up. Rogers Center had the same type of situation where they had to have a monitor to see who was throwing in the bullpens, and that, of course, has changed now as they have made some changes to the situation there at Rogers Center.
3-2 count. And Morejon fouls it off. It also changed the behavior of many relievers when all of a sudden they realized their manager could actually see them in the bullpen on camera. They had to find the little area of the bullpen that was
out of sight,
not under not under surveillance by the skipper. Morejon battling Chen. Gracial at second. And the goal now for Chen is get out of this inning at 49 pitches.
Yeah, he's certainly not going to throw more than 49. We have been told that by John McLaren, the manager. They just want to keep him eligible for a possible appearance in the following games in this pool. There are 3 games, of course, for each team.
To third, and it's knocked down by Chang. Gets it, fires it, and gets the out. And a big out to get for China. And a nice play on that dirt portion of the infield by Chang.
Ray Chang, a natural shortstop, is playing third base, and he's aware that the catcher Morejon hit the ball, so he's got a little extra time, takes the bat, hop bounces it over there, and makes a good play of it.
Gracial did not advance. He's at second, and here is Cespedes. who really shined last night in the 9 spot. If you missed the outset of the telecast, we showed the 3 hits that he had. A variety of swings, a variety of directions, and really a solid night. For a guy who's only 19 years old, too. That's the other thing to remember about him. Up the middle by Chen, backhanded by Du, and they got him at first base. Xiaolei Du gets the out. Bruce Chen's family pretty pleased as the old left-hander has 2 scoreless innings. World Baseball Classic 101. If you haven't watched the Classic much, there are a few nuances to it. First, we start with 4 first-round sites. We're in Tokyo here, Seoul, Miami, and Mexico. Second round, we'll stay in Tokyo, Buck and I, and then San Diego. 2 teams advance out of each pool, and then 2 teams advance for the second round to the championship round in Los Angeles. You saw the pitch counts. We've talked about that and how it impacts China's strategy. Bruce Chen might come out to start. He's got, what, 7 pitches left before he hits 49?
Yep.
And he does have
43. It'll be interesting. Top of the order is scheduled up for Cuba. Left-hander hitting Santos.
Yeah, that's why you may see him with the lefty to lead off the inning. Meanwhile, we haven't talked much about Vladimir Baños, who's been sharp. This is Wei Wong, the catcher. Look at it, 38. He's a veteran of baseball in China.
Wei Wong has the distinction of hitting the first ever home run in the World Baseball Classic. He hit that against Japan right here.
And a good breaking ball. Baños has shown that from the very start. Command and control of that pitch. He's got 3 strikeouts.
You can see Wong telling Wah, the next batter, that hey, he's got a pretty good curveball, and the Wei Wong home run came off Koji Uehara, who was pitching for Team Japan in 2006. So he'll always be remembered as the player that hit the first home run in the WBC.
Baños misses in. Now, if Brent Musburger were here, he would somehow work in that Cuba is an enormous favorite in this game over China. But there is pressure on Cuba because of their loss last night.
Well, I got to say that Korea, the host in Seoul, was the enormous favorite over Israel in the opener of that game, and Israel won 2-1 in extra innings. So I think that's the beauty of the World Baseball Classic. You know, if China were to play Cuba 30 games, Cuba would probably win 27 of them. But on any given day, and you've seen that over the course of your big league career, on any given day, baseball has the distinct advantage that you never know. You never know what might happen on a given day.
Little inside out swing. Gracial at third. Across the diamond in time to get Na. And there are 2 outs. Well, that's, I mean, in Seoul, Israel is the it team right now. Netherlands look really good as well in their opener. And I mean, if you're looking at early favorites to advance here, the Netherlands was quite comfortable here last year when they dramatically took down Cuba in a loser go home, winner go to San Francisco game in 2013.
Well, the Netherlands is loaded with shortstops.
Yes,
They've got shortstops all over the diamond, and Jurickson Profar, who's been battling shoulder issues the last couple of years, hit a home run. And that's a good sign for the Texas Rangers, his big league ball club. But Xander Bogaerts, the shortstop for the Red Sox, is playing third base.
Well, you got Didi Gregorius there. You've got Andrelton Simmons. It's all right. All right, Buck, I know it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon here in Japan, but how about a Kieran for you?
Delivered to your seat.
Yeah, with the beer backpack. 2017 World Baseball Classic first round, Pool B from Tokyo. Last night, Japan, in front of a wild 45,000 sellout crowd, took down Cuba. Bruce Chen and China are even with Cuba now. And Bruce Chen, with a breaking ball for a strike, won't be here much longer. In fact, 5 more pitches is his limit, set by his manager, John McLaren. Raul Santos bounced out his first time up. Chen bounces that one to the screen. China has a reliever ready to go. Sha Lu, a right-hander, has been warming up back in the hidden bullpen. Little swinging bunt, and Chen fires it high, and that's a base hit. That's a great piece by Raul Santos to get it down and then bust it down to first.
Well, China was well aware that Santos was a threat to bunt. This is a swinging chop bunt, if you will, and Bruce Chen took a little while to get off the mound, and Santos runs so well. Remember, we told you about Santos in the scouting numbers. He is an 80 runner. Scouts grade speed on a 20 to 80 scale, and they grade Santos as an 80 runner, so Chen didn't have much of a chance to throw him out.
All right, for McLaren, the other bonus of having Chen here is that he can keep Santos close at first. He has a good move. The problem is he's only got 3 pitches to the plate to keep him anchored at first.
And Bruce is going to play this game for a while. Obviously, if he can pick up an out and pick Santos off, that'd be a big bonus for his staying in this game here in the 3rd inning.
Of course, if he wants to stay in the game, he can continue to throw to first, because that doesn't count against the pitch count. But eventually he's going to have to come home to Alexander Ayala, who may have the best swing against Chen so far. He doubled down the left field line back in the 1st. Speed is an element that Cuba has on their team that they didn't have to this extent in 2013. They had some speed, but not like they have here. We haven't seen Victor Mesa in the starting lineup yet. Kind of a quick pitch and a strike.
Yeah, we mentioned the experience of Bruce Chen. He understands how you control a running game. He did it for 17 years in the big leagues. So he used that slide step and threw a changeup for a strike.
Another quick pitch. This one misses outside. So, Buck Martinez, if everything we hear is true and if they stay to plan, this is the last pitch for Bruce Chen.
Tough spot for John McLaren.
Bouncer, Ray Chang on to second, got one. Deuce turn is in time. How about that? What a way to end for Bruce Chen. Look at the dugout, and they know it.
Boy, what a beautiful thing for China. Bruce Chen hits that 49th pitch limit to keep him active in this tournament. And Ray Chang starts the 5-4-3 double play. What a turn by Du at second. And Bruce Chen knows exactly what that meant. He got 2 outs, and you could see him acknowledging the defense.
So he had 5 pitches. John McLaren sends him out, and he gets 2 outs. And China and Cuba are still scoreless. With his last pitch of the day, Bruce Chen gets a double play, and he exits at 49 pitches. We talked about the emotions that he had, talking about wearing the uniform for China. You mix in, Buck, the fact that he's come back to play the sport that he loves, and he played for 17 years in the major leagues. And his teammates know how important this start was for him. And the good news for John McLaren is that he will be able to use Chen later in the tournament.
Without question, that is the beauty of the World Baseball Classic. You see things that mean so much, and Bruce Chen has been such a supporter of his teammates. He's been the leader of this pitching staff, and each and every day he talks to them and say, hey, trust your fastball, throw the strikes. It's hard to hit. And for him to be able to get a double play on the 49th pitch to keep himself eligible, That just shows you that there are baseball gods that keep an eye out for the good guys, and Bruce Chen is one of the best guys that I've ever been around in baseball.
Well, it's not an easy landing for Jia Lu, because he gets Cepeda, and if he doesn't get Cepeda, then Despagne is due up, the 24-year-old. Out of Sichuan, China, plays for the Dragons in the China Baseball League. There's a strike. Cepeda coming off yet another big year, but we talked about him last night, some injury issues, including Tommy John surgery. This is a noon start here in Japan. Tonight, another sellout and another wild scene expected. It's Australia making their debut here in 2017, and Japan trying to go to 2-0. That's a walk to Cepeda, and now Lau has to face Alfredo Despagne.
Despagne struck out against Bruce Chen in his previous at-bat. Chen, in the at-bat, threw a fastball behind Despagne and then struck him out on a changeup down and away.
Despagne, 5'9", 230. And you drew the comparison to Kirby Puckett, the late, great Kirby Puckett.
Yeah, he got a powerful swing, certainly. That's the veteran Wei Rong, who has played in all 4 World Baseball Classics.
4 times Despagne was the MVP in the Cuban League, Serie Nacional. And he smokes that one into center field for a base hit. Young picks it up. Cepeda stops at second. And Cuba has something going here with 2 outs in the 3rd.
Well, Cuba, we mentioned they scored 6 runs on 11 hits against their opponent in Game 1, Japan. And now Dave Bush has made his way out of the dugout for China. He's come out to the mound and going to have a chat with his interpreter by his side. Look at the smile on Bush's face. That suggests maybe he's recognized that this young pitcher is a little bit nervous right now, just trying to get him to relax and throw strikes and say, hey, we got a good defense behind you. Just take it easy now, gather your thoughts, and you got through the 2 toughest part of the lineup with Cepeda and Despagne. Now let's just get it out, close out this inning.
Well, that was part of our conversation with Bruce Chen. Not only did he want to keep Cuba off the board and pitch like it was, you know, Game 7 and in the late innings, but he wanted to set the tone for the rest of the pitching staff and show them that, hey, you can get outs against this powerful Cuba team. Right now, Lau needs 1 to get out of the inning. And a fastball that misses up. Now, when your fastball is 81 miles an hour, Buck Martinez, where do you go to get outs?
Just make good pitches, throw strikes. We saw it in the World Series, Kyle Hendricks, and we saw it all season long with Marco Estrada. You don't have to throw 100 to get guys out. Just make good quality pitches. You know, they tell you all the time, hey, hitting is tough. And I think we've seen a trend back, and you go, yeah, obviously Maddox threw in the low 90s, but he was an artist with his command. I've got guys like Mark Burley, never really touched 90 any time in his career, but had a terrific long career by throwing quality strikes. Put the ball in play, give your defense a chance to help you out.
I think you said the magic word in there, and that was command. And if you don't have velocity, you've got to have some movement, and you got to have command. Sort of like you got to have WA, which is a great
true.
book about baseball here in Japan.
Especially with some of these more veteran hitters on the Cuban team. You know, they like information, just like big league veteran hitters. They like to know who they're facing. They have a track record. They know what to expect in certain counts. When you're facing a guy that you've never seen before from another continent, it's a challenge. the more pitches hitters see against a particular pitcher, the more knowledge they gather and the better they get. So I'm sure Dave Bush has told his pitchers, hey, throw strikes. They have no idea what you throw. Maybe they'll have weak swings early in the at-bat and you'll get some outs.
Saavedra, Chang has it, flips to second, and how about this? China has held Cuba off the board for 3 innings. We head to the 4th in Tokyo. Scoreless. We talked about the enormity of China, 1.37 billion people, largest population in the world. You know about the Great Wall, largest man-made structure in the world. Got the great history and palaces, but not a lot of baseball. That's changing though with Major League Baseball investing in China. This is China in the World Baseball Classic. A little bunt, first base side, and out. Just out at first base. As Zhenhong Liu, the right fielder, dropped out a bunt. Saavedra trying to keep his foot on the bag, and according to Larry Vanover, he did.
Good footwork right there by Saavedra. We saw him get tangled up a little bit in last night's game, but Larry Vanover was all over it as Saavedra was able to switch feet, maintain contact with the bag to record the out. That's 10 straight retired by Banos, but a good idea by the leadoff hitter Liu.
Fujia Chu now for China. Banos 3 1/3 of perfect pitching. He's got a strikeout in each inning.
Well, as opposed to what China was thinking about with Bruce Chen, Cuba's not concerned about the pitch count of Banos. They've got more depth in their starting rotation, so Banos can pitch 65 pitches as he continues to stymie this Chinese lineup.
China had some games in the exhibition portion of the World Baseball Classic. You know, every team gets in, has a training camp, and plays some exhibition games where they played quite well. It's a high fastball and no swing. And so Chu is in a hitter's count at 3-1. That's a strike inside corner. Oh, our buddy is back. You know, these names are tough. These names for China, and some for Cuba. So it's nice to have an Italian umpire named Fabrizio Fabrizi. That is a strike. And Banos now, there he is. Fabrizio Fabrizi. Out of Italy.
Worldwide umpires, of course, the home plate umpires from Cuba, Larry Vanover and Todd Tishner, Major League umpires. Of course, Choi is from Korea, the home plate umpire.
Ray Chang now, and this is exactly what Cuba wants. They don't want Ray Chang coming up with anybody on base, because in international play, he has a penchant for coming up with a big hit.
Let's go big 2-1. We say now.
Wendy Chang Ray's mom from Kansas City to watch Ray play for a second time here in Japan. Obviously a big baseball fan. She's followed Ray throughout his career, and everybody, I'm sure, is a little bit saddened by the fact that this is going to be Ray's last opportunity to play baseball.
You know, we talked to him about that 2011 season when he was called up by the Twins, had one last game in the minor leagues, broke his leg in a collision in shallow left field. There was no bitterness. He's kind of the modern day Moonlight Graham, right? The guy that got called up and never got a chance to really get a taste of the big leagues and ever play there.
Well, he's looking forward to his opportunity in China.
Hits that ball well to left, and a running catch by Despagne in left. So a good swing, but right now, Vladimir Baños of Cuba has a perfect game through 4. Carlos Martí has won a couple of Cuban baseball titles. This is his first job at the World Baseball Classic, and during the break, Buck Martinez, this is what we saw.
Yeah, he was talking to his hitters saying, hey man, you're trying to do too much. These guys don't throw hard. You're 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. You've already stranded 5. You got to be patient. Don't try to overpower these guys. They're throwing soft fastballs. Go the other way. Put the ball in play. Get yourself on base. Martí, 68 years old, long tenured manager. 39 years in the Series Nacional in Cuba. And after missing some time because of health concerns, he is back here managing the Cuban national team. What a play by Joey Wong.
Joey Wong in the hole. The former Oregon State Beaver and Colorado Rocky AAA player with a very nice play, and that gets Gracial with the first out here in the 4th inning.
Well, we mentioned that China's got a good interior defense, and they're flashing the leather early in this game. Good play by the shortstop. They got a big double play back in the 3rd inning off the bat of Alexander Ayala, and here Joey Wong takes a hit away from Gracial.
Benitez takes a breaking ball down low. This is Jia Lu pitching for China. Bruce Chen went the first 2 2/3 innings. The first inning took a while, second inning took a while, and the last 2/3 were only 5 pitches. Just a terrific gutty effort by the veteran Bruce Chen, who is at 39 and last pitched in the big leagues in 2015. Benitez pulls that one, and Ray Chang can't handle it down the line. Cuba has a base runner with 1 out. Well, we talked about China. How about Cuba? 11 million people in the Caribbean, the most populated country, and of course, a great baseball tradition.
Many terrific former major leaguers born in Cuba. Mike Gonzalez, Adolfo Luque, Orestes Mini Minoso, Camilo Pascual, my teammate Cookie Rojas.
One of my favorite people in all of baseball is Cookie Rojas.
Cookie Rojas and I played together with Kansas City Royals, and then he was my bench coach when I managed the Toronto Blue Jays. A terrific baseball mind and a real class act.
Morejon's bunt. Now, were you with the Royals the day that Cookie Rojas and Freddie Patek jumped in the fountain in left field?
Yes, I was.
I saw pictures of that. Cookie told us a great story. The Royals had not been to the postseason, and Cookie Rojas and Freddie Patek promised that if they got to the postseason, they would jump in the fountain at Kauffman Stadium. And of course, they got to the postseason and they jumped in the fountain.
It was classic Cookie Rojas, too, because he did it very calmly. He walked from our dugout on the first base side of Kauffman Stadium all the way out to the bullpen, climbed over the fence in a very stoic manner, got up on the ladder, jumped in the pool, and reacted like a 5-year-old in his first swimming pool. He had a terrific time. What a great leader he was throughout his career. Certainly had a lot to do with our success in Kansas City.
Vamos, Cuba, vamos, vamos, Morejon, vamos, Morejon, vamos, vamos.
Vamos, Morejon, let's go. Get something started.
Frank Morejon gets hit on a fastball that creeps in and catches Morejon, it looks like, on the forearm. And that's going to put Cubans at first and at second.
That fastball ran inside, and Morejon gets hit on the back arm. Interesting, he has that pad on his left arm, but got hit on the right wrist, and that one will leave a mark. But that's a tough pitch for the pitcher. Lou, as now he's got to deal with Cespedes, the number 9 hitter, certainly not swinging the bat like a number 9 hitter so far in this tournament.
So Morejon down to first. It pushes Benitez to second. And here comes Yolkis Cespedes, though you'll read his name, his first name in two different fashions. Yolki or Yolkis. The lineup card had Yolkis with an S on it. The roster has no S. That's driven to right, hit well. Liu is back at the wall, and he can't get it. He bangs off the wall. Late start at second base by Benitez. Round 30 comes, and the throw home is not in time. And China had a chance to get the runner at home, and the relay throw was redirected to third base.
Absolutely a big break for Cuba. Morejon ends up at third. Cespedes has a long RBI single off the wall in right. But the ball bounced and stayed very close to the right fielder, Liu. This ball is drilled off the wall in right. Cespedes continues to swing the bat well, but watch where the ball ends up, right on the warning track. And then instead of angling toward home, they throw to third. You can see the runner Benitez. Clearly they had a shot at him if they throw to home. And that's one of the concerns, the fundamental aspects of the Chinese team, not as keen as Cuba's.
Yeah, the baseball instincts are the last to arrive when you're starting a program in a country that does not have a baseball tradition. And so Santos now, who has electric speed, and you've got Cespedes who can run at first, and Morejon is the runner at third. Infield plays for two up the middle, which will be tough to accomplish with Santos' speed.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough situation for the defense for China. We have seen Santos bunt. He had a bunt single his last time up with Chen on the mound. He's a tough guy to double up, and I wouldn't be surprised if Santos tries to drag bunt here just to cash in the runner from third.
Breaking ball, a strike. 25 pitches for Jia Liu. He pitched in the 2013 World Baseball Classic, so he has some international experience. But he's in deep right now. Cespedes bluffs, and Santos fouls it back.
Yeah, by Cespedes moving at first base, even though he's not running, he creates some movement on the infield to possibly open up a hole for Santos, the hitter. So you see that runner break at first. The tendency is for a middle infielder to break toward the bag at second, anticipating a possible stolen base. Might create a big hole for Santos.
Wong and Du very good up the middle. And a fastball evens the count. 2 balls, 2 strikes. If you're just joining us, Cuba heavy favorites in this ball game. China trotted out Bruce Chen, longtime major leaguer to start, hadn't pitched in the big league since 15, and Chen was able to get through 2 2/3 scoreless. Cuba finally has a run here in the bottom of the 4th. Cespedes bluffs. Santos drills it right center field and deep. Young on his way, and it is off the wall. Santos is already racing around second. 1 run in, 2 runs in, and Cuba has a 3-0 lead as Santos chases home Morejon and Cespedes. And a big hit from the leadoff man. And a relief, I think, to Cuban fans to finally take the lead against China.
Well, Santos stays on this pitch and drills it deep to center field. It carried a lot farther than Young expected it to. Hits off the top of the wall and bounces on the warning track. It chases home both runners as Santos ends up at third with the triple, his second hit of the day.
Alexander Ayala now, and he swings and misses. That was not the swing that his manager Carlos Marti was talking about in that team meeting in between last inning or last half inning and this, the bottom of the 4th. Marti was more interested in staying middle, not trying to lift and separate like Ayala there.
Well, this was an inning that started with a terrific defensive play from Joey Wong for an out, and then a bad hop single for Benitez. Morejon got hit by a pitch, and then Cespedes hit one off the wall and right.
China right now trying to limit the damage. Cuba trying to open up a bigger lead. Liner to left. Mung is there. It's over his head, and it goes off the wall, and it'll score Santos easily. Ayala into second with a double. And right now, China losing some of their composure.
Well, the fundamental aspect of the game, we saw the relay going to the wrong base that led to the first Cuban run in this inning, and then the left fielder, Mung, got a little bit over aggressive, charged that line drive, and it sailed over his head. It was going to be a run no matter what. Hit deep enough to cash in Santos from third.
Dave Bush, pitching coach for China, with the interpreter by his side, and he'll go out and try to figure out how to get Jia Lu back on track. He's got two big bats waiting, Cepeda and Despagne, the heart of the order for Cuba. We just talked about Marti's lecture to his hitters. He's probably a little happier now, maybe a little more calm.
Well, I think he was pretty calm when he addressed the hitters. He just matter-of-factly told them, hey, you guys are trying to do too much against this pitching staff. He called them in after the top half of the fourth inning, had a meeting out in front of the dugout, and said, hey, let's have better at-bats. The guys are trying too hard. Santos with a 2-run triple, and then the Ayala double over the head of the left fielder for another run, and it's turned into a 4-run inning.
Not nearly as emotional or animated as Victor Mesa, who was manager in 2013, who was sort of, I guess, the Cuban Billy Martin, if you want to go there.
Yeah, Mesa was very much a different manager. Marti, well respected, 68 years old, and very soft-spoken. We had a great visit with him prior to the start of this tournament, and he was explaining all the strengths of his ball club and giving us the characteristic of some of his players.
Cepeda lifts it foul. Well, this Cuban team does not have the power that it has had in years past. 2013, you and I saw Jose Abreu, Yasmani Tomas, Gurriel, some real boppers. And of course, the exodus of talent from Cuba into the major leagues. We've talked about Yoenis Cespedes, Yasiel Puig, Aroldis Chapman, Jorge Soler. How about Aledmus Diaz of the St. Louis Cardinals?
Yeah, Yasmani Tomas, they've had terrific players that have defected and come to the major leagues. And now it's a new wave, the younger players, Cespedes and Victor Mesa, just 20 years old. Cespedes, a teenager at 19.
Which leaves kind of a hole for this Cuban program in the middle, right? I mean, look at a lot of these, the important players here. Cepeda's 36, Despaign's 30, Saavedra is 35, Morejon's 31, Graciel's 31. Alexander Ayala, the shortstop's 35. And then you've got the really young kids. Victor Mesa's son is just 20. Cespedes is 19. There's a real gap there in terms of the talent, at least on this team.
They've been such a international powerhouse for so many years. Now it's a little bit of an adjustment, but that young man right there, Yoelkis Cespedes, truly a rising star.
Of course, the youngest of the Cubans has a juice box in the dugout. There's Mesa. I'm really interested to see Victor Mesa. His father, one of the greatest, if not the greatest, base runner, base stealer in Cuban history, and a very good manager as well. Joey Wong makes another nice play with a backhand, and that gets Cepeda. And up comes Alfredo Despagne. Despagne has been part of some incredible moments in his career. And you think about the history of Cuban baseball and their success internationally. 3 Olympic gold medals, 92, 96, and 04. Silver medals in 08 and 2000. And speaking of Olympic baseball, it's back. Baseball's back in the Olympics, and it's here in Tokyo in 2020. I could not find any official announcements in terms of facilities, but you would think, since they are building a new Olympic stadium to hold track and field and opening ceremonies and such, that this would be a great spot for the baseball competition.
You would imagine this is where they'll play the baseball competition, and we've seen some Olympic advertising around the city of Tokyo.
And NPB, Nippon Professional Baseball, the Japanese major leagues, has, I don't know if they've officially announced, but word is that they're going to shut down during the Olympic Games so that their best players and all-star team can compete. And Buck, with so many of the Japanese professional teams clustered around Tokyo, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, they have ballparks close to Tokyo, right in the suburban area, so they could play some of the games there as well, spread it out, and then bring the medal round games here. 5 of the 12 stadiums are in the suburban Tokyo area, so they could really have a nice grouping of games around the city and then play the medal rounds here at this Tokyo Dome.
Despagne looking for a pitch he can drive, and I think Jia Lu knows the power that he's got. The big egg, that's why they call it the big egg, that Teflon roof, and it is an air pressure roof. You have to come through revolving doors, much like the old Metrodome.
Not a bad turnout for an afternoon game. Of course, we're right downtown in Tokyo, so a lot of people, I'm sure, have taken a long lunch break to come over and watch this game. Tonight's going to be a different story when Australia opens up its Pool B play against Japan, who's already won a game.
45,000 will be here. Breaking ball in the dirt. Despagne walks. And John McLaren is on his way out. Looks like he's going to make a pitching change. And so Jia Lu gives the ball to John McLaren, and he will go to the bullpen. We'll step aside. 4-0. Cuba has rallied here in the 4th. Jia Lu chased from the game by Cuba. 4 runs here in the bottom of the 4th inning. And so he's knocked around in 44 pitches. Xuan Gan now pitching for China. And of course, while all this is happening, and we've focused so much on the China story and how they had held Cuba off the board for 3 innings, but Vladimir Baños has been brilliant for Cuba. 4 perfect innings in his start. Baños has thrown 51 pitches, so he's 14 shy of the pitch limit. He can get to 65. First round in World Baseball Classic, starters and pitchers are limited to 65 pitches per game. Saavedra takes a rip and fouls it off. And a strikeout. Xuan Gan gets Willen Saavedra. This was the chat by Carlos Marti. The veteran manager said, hey, go the other way. Stay middle. Cuba does and scores 4 times. Tokyo Tower here in Tokyo. A noon start for this one after a wild and noisy night last night. 2017 World Baseball Classic first round, Pool B, Cuba and China. Again tonight, Japan is home against Australia. 45,000 will be here with their noisemakers and their songs and their chants. And Samurai Japan, you could not buy a newspaper, a tabloid or a paper in Japan without the front page just being covered with the hitting heroes of last night. Little inside out and a dribbler out to second base. Benitez to first. And Vladimir Baños has retired the first 13 that he has faced. Nobuhiro Matsuda was featured on a lot of those newspapers. So is Yoshitomo Tsutsugo. Both of those guys homered last night in Japan's 11-6 win.
Tsutsugo drove in 3 runs while Matsuda had a 4-for-5 night. He had 4 RBIs in the game, and Matsuda was a late decision for the manager to insert him into the starting lineup, and it was a stroke of genius. Tsutsugo, with the 44 home run season a year ago, delivered a 2-run home run in the 7th.
Baños That breaking ball has been a great pitch for him this afternoon.
Yeah.
Shuni Yang has struck out. He's 0 for 1.
He's pitched ahead, and once he does that, he can expand the zone with that breaking ball. His curveball's been very good, and he's been able to rack up strikeouts with that curveball.
Line drive right field. That's the first hit for China. So Yang goes to right, and the Chinese center fielder has a hit. Now Baños at 58 pitches. Put it up there. Thank you. 58 pitches. He has got 7 more before he must be lifted.
First base runner for China comes on a solid base hit to right field. Shuni Yang, the center fielder, delivers that 1-out base hit. Now, Joey Wong, shortstop, who's had a good game defensively so far, grounded out his first time up.
Wong takes in. Cuba's bullpen is busy. Vladimir Garcia, right-hander. Runner goes, fastball up, throw down, safe, and a stolen base by Yang.
Now the element of surprise, and Yang got a good jump, and Morejon's got a strong arm, but the jump was just too much, as you don't really expect them to run down by 4, but they got to do whatever they can to get a runner in scoring position. He gets a great jump at first, little peek over his shoulder at the catcher, but the throw just late at second. A strong throw from Morejon, but late.
And a chance to get on the board here with Wong at the plate. Wong takes in. We told you about Wong and his Oregon State experience, a national championship there. He and Darwin Barney, a double play combination. He's been in the minor leagues since 2009. All with Colorado. Pitch for a strike from Baños. It's 3-1, and he's down to his last 3 pitches.
Well, you can imagine that John McLaren, the manager for China, said, you know what, I got to take a shot with Wong coming up, see if I can't get a runner in scoring position. That's why he sent Yang, the runner at first base.
Pulls it out towards second, and with 2 outs, China has a runner at third. Baños is down to 2 more pitches. And China's got Wei Wong, their catcher, up. You can see he had a nice
his first time up, and he's been a terrific player for China.
Yeah, and a nice year this year with Beijing. Morejon, very good behind the plate. Cuba sitting on a 4-0 lead. And I've got 65 pitches.
You can finish a batter.
Gotcha.
When you have started the at-bat when you're under 65 pitches, so he can stay in the game and finish this at-bat.
That's why it pays to have a former World Baseball Classic manager on your broadcast team.
I tell you, it takes a while to get used to all of the intricacies of this tournament, but you can finish an at-bat once you hit that 65 pitch limit. Had you started the at-bat prior to hitting that number.
That obviously a different situation than Bruce Chen, who had a hard cap at 49. And he pitched a 2 2/3 scoreless inning in that stretch. Ground ball, third base. Gracial across the diamond, and China threatens, but Baños finishes. Vladimir Baños 5 shutout innings, just 1 hit and a 4-0 Cuba lead. Well, let's go back to 2013. What kind of power does Jose Abreu have? That's deep.
Well, we can see from that tournament in 2013, Jose Abreu was a major league hitter, and he hit the ball to all parts of the ballpark. And after that tournament, he signed with the White Sox. He's had 3 straight 100 RBI seasons, and he hit 91 home runs over 3 years with the White Sox. He's a good hitter.
Had a grand slam. That was against China. That was a lopsided Cuban win. Right now it's 4-0 Cuba, bottom 5.
Jose Abreu was a Rookie of the Year in the American League in 2014. He also won the Silver Slugger Award as the best offensive first baseman when he slugged .581 for Chicago.
Broken bat, little pop, right field, long run, and it lands for a hit. It's collected there by Du. And so a base hit. And a nice tournament continues for Graciel.
2 hits today, and a solid single left, picked up a stolen base, and he was robbed of a base hit in the 4th inning on a terrific defensive play by the shortstop, Joey Wong.
Now Benitez, and he takes a fastball that misses somewhere. It's 1-0. 1 for 2 is Benitez. And you got Morejon behind him.
Big wild swing, and that's what Carlos Marti, the manager, was concerned about, that the swings were getting a little too long, and then he had that meeting outside the dugout prior to the start of the bottom of the 4th inning, and that led to a 4-run inning for Cuba. Cut down your swing, put the ball in play.
Swing and a miss. Runner goes. Throw on the money. Safe, though, with a slide. Graciel has his 2nd stolen base of the ball game.
The short hop caused Du, the second baseman, to obviously catch the short hop. When he did that, that took the glove off the bag, and Graciel was able to slide in there safely with his 2nd stolen base.
Now Benitez, who's 1 for 2, has got a chance to drive in a run. Always like to see the signage that you might not see in other ballparks pop up. Buck, I believe that's a movie or a video game that I'm sure you have.
Yeah, that's one that's right on my iPad, I'm sure. But you're right, there's a lot of color around this stadium. Puzzles and Dragons.
We're told it's a game, a video game. In the air, and it's Zhenhong Liu, the right fielder, who makes the catch. All right, our game summary, if you're just joining us, get you up to speed. Cuba's got a 4-0 lead. Yes, Bruce Chen was back, and he was terrific. 2 2/3, scoreless, 49 pitches. They took him out at 49 so they can use him in the next few days again. And then Cuba finally got on the board in the bottom of the 4th. They poured across 4 runs and have a 4-0 lead. And the Cuban starter, Vladimir Baños, went 5 innings, gave up just 1 hit, and that was the only base runner in his 5 innings of work. And he just got to his pitch limit as that inning ended.
Well, it was exactly what Team Cuba needed to get the offense rolling, and Baños came in, threw up some zeros early on, and did a great job of taking the sting out of the bats of the China hitters because he used his curveball so well.
Jam shot. And Du goes to first to get the out. And so now 2 outs. And we get a look at Yolkis Cespedes.
Yeah, again, this is not your typical number 9 hitter. Cespedes has had a great tournament. He now has 4 hits in the first 2 games of this tournament. He drove in the first run of the ball game with a long single off the wall in deep right field.
Cespedes going after a high fastball. Buck, let's put on your scouting hat. As you watch this guy at 19, what do you see?
Well, and you can see how confident he is, and there are all the scouts that are here. And you can bet they're making a lot of notes on young Cespedes. But he gets to the ball very easily. And you can see they got the radar guns, they're making notes. Okay, high fastball, he was able to get to it. But I think the important thing I saw from him early on was the fact that he could hit the breaking ball. He got 3 hits last night, 2 of them coming on a breaking ball.
Fastball, and he goes down there. So a strikeout for Shuang Gan. And Cuba held off the board in the 5th. On to the 6th, 4-0 Cuba.
Everybody, yes. Yay!
4-0 Cuba's on top. 6th inning here. And what he was saying was this copyrighted telecast is presented by the authority of the World Baseball Classic Incorporated. May not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form in any country. In the accounts and descriptions, the game may not be disseminated without the express written consent. It's a universal baseball law, right, Buck? I mean, everybody knows that. I heard the Japanese crew reading their disclaimer last night. Hiroki Kuroda last night was the one that was selected to read the disclaimer on Japanese television. And I would think throughout the world, we are not only on MLB Network, but Major League Baseball International, and there are some announcers that are announcing this game in their native language. They also
just read the disclaimer.
Yes. They were contractually obligated to do that. See, I think what we should do, Buck, is for the countries that are playing in the game, we should get someone from that country to read the disclaimer in their language.
That would be very interesting.
Right? I mean, it's still legal, right? I don't think in the court of law, if you said, look, I don't speak English, I disseminated and rebroadcast the game to all my buddies. 4-0, Cuba on top, 6th inning. Shuang Na is on his way to first base. And so China, who threatened in the 5th, has a base runner to open up here the 6th inning.
New pitcher into the ballgame after a strong start from Baños. Vladimir Baños went 5 innings, allowed just 1 hit, didn't walk a batter. Is the veteran Vladimir Garcia, 28 years old, his 3rd World Baseball Classic for Cuba.
Xiaowei Du in the 9th spot for China. And Garcia out in front 0-2. Vladimir Garcia is the 2nd pitcher to work. Cuba started Vladimir Baños, and he was impressive. And that's a big change from last night. Now, obviously, he's not facing, Baños isn't facing Japan, but last night, Noeris Intenza went just an inning and a 3rd. And then Yoenis Yerra, the little lefty, gave up 3 runs in his 3 innings.
Garcia has pitched 11 seasons, actually 12 seasons in Cuba. He's pitched over 1,100 innings, so he's an experienced guy. He has started, he's worked relief, he's made 135 career starts, so he's got length. He can give them innings if he can pitch effectively here, middle of this ball game.
Fastball runs in.
We mentioned Garcia, 28 years old and working to the bottom of this order. Let's see. Second baseman, Du.
Lays off a good breaking ball. 2-2. The pitching rubber is in there somewhere. And he chased that one. His bat ends up out at shortstop.
Well, and this is one thing that's been very effective for the Cuban pitchers here this afternoon, using that breaking ball. And just because you don't have a lot of experience in this Chinese lineup, they will chase those breaking balls. That was the case with Baños starting this game. He had 4 strikeouts, all coming on breaking balls. And then Garcia gets his first strikeout, another breaking ball out of the strike zone.
Zhen Hong Lu, leadoff man for China, line to left, dropped down a nice bunt and was thrown out by a step. So he's 0 for 2. The only hit from Shuni Yang, the center fielder, who singled, swiped a bag in the 5th, and that was the threat for China. Ball and a strike. This is game 2 for Cuba. The nuance of 4-team pool play is that you have a team like Cuba, and someone has to do it, to play 2 games within 24 hours before one team has played 1 game. Australia hasn't played a game, and they play tonight against Japan. The hardship sometimes falls on a team like China or Australia, where they have to play 3 consecutive days, and that means that their pitching, already thin, has to be closely monitored. It may not have all of their relievers available, whereas Cuba's going to have a day off. Japan's going to have a day off, so they can bring relievers back in that 3rd game, whereas a guy like John McLaren or John Diebel, the manager of Australia, isn't in that same position.
Yeah, both Cuba and Japan will have off days in this tournament, as you mentioned, and Cuba won't play again until Friday at noon local time, and then Japan will play Friday night in their final game against China.
Fujia Chu now. What have you seen, Buck? You managed in 06, and you've broadcast games in 09 and in 13 and here in 17. What have you seen from China in that span of time that leads you to believe they're headed in the right direction?
Well, I think we have seen a dramatic improvement in their fundamental skills, just catching the ball and making quality pitches. The pitching today, you know, outside of Bruce Chen, of course, he's a 17-year major leaguer, but I think they have thrown more strikes. They've been a little more aggressive, and that might be the impact of having Bruce Chen around, where he says, you know what, throw it over. John McLaren in his 2nd season as the manager of China, 2nd tournament with Dave Bush, his pitching coach. They have continued to encourage the pitchers to throw strikes, and I think that's the biggest thing, because when you see world-class players like the Cuban team or professional players like the Japanese team, you have a tendency to think they can hit anything. Well, you and I know that that's not the case. You make good pitches, you can get outs. But there's certainly been a growth in Major League Baseball, as we talked about earlier, has made a commitment to improve baseball in China.
Bouncer to short. Ayala across the diamond in time, and Cuba continues to shine on the mounds. 4-0.
Aquí estamos, aquí.
Little guys have been big for Cuba in this one. Raul Santos and Yulkis Cespedes have the big hits. And Cuba trying to even their slate at 1-1 in Pool B. And Santos, who had the big defensive night last night, couple hits. You just saw that 2-run triple. And there's that little run up and slap at it, and he's going to dump this into center field on his way to second with that great speed, and he's in there. How about that?
Santos, a very exciting player. He hit a triple over the center fielder's head in his last at bat, and here he uses that slap swing bunt. Just runs up in the batter's box, slaps at it, and flares it into center field. And then makes a judgment that he's got a chance once it hits safely in front of the center fielder that he can go to second. Reading it all the way, and then he turns it on. He's got terrific speed and beats the throw into second base.
I love that shot, especially the start of that shot, to watch his footwork in the box, because some guys that do that end up out of the box, but he was so precise and so balanced with his footwork running up to slap that ball. Because if you're out of the box and you make contact, you're out.
I played with Alfredo Griffin, who could do that very well. He was my teammate in Toronto, and then I saw Tony Fernandez of the Blue Jays do it quite often, where they would run up, get a better angle, and just kind of slap it into center and left field just to create some opportunities. And he's got terrific feet. Watch how he stays in the box, a little shuffle there, and he's making contact before he ever leaves the batter's box. And then he reads it very well and ends up at second base with a double.
Emilio Bonifacio, another speedster in the big leagues, used to employ that strategy. Alfredo Griffin was one of the most creative baseball players I've ever seen, in base running, in bunting, in hitting, in fielding as well. He was a terrific player.
Terrific player, longtime coach with the Angels, working for Mike Scioscia.
Alexander Ayala, who has doubled twice. Xuan Gan is the third pitcher to work for China. And for John McLaren in China, they'd like to see this right-hander stretch it out a little bit, eat some innings, and keep it at 4-0. Smacked up the middle into center field. Good break by Yang, and they'll hold the runner. Yang airs it out all the way to home plate. And that's not just any runner, that's Santos, the speedster they held at third.
Yeah, Shuni Wong does a good job of charging this ball. This looked like an RBI single all the way. Ayala stays on it and rips it into center. You can see Santos gets a hesitation break. He really didn't break on contact. He wasn't really sure if that was going to be maybe a line drive caught, but he ends up at third base. A little bit surprising, couldn't score on that single by Ayala. He's had a good day at the plate. A couple of doubles and a single in 4 trips.
Pitching change. 4-0. Cuba on top and threatening with nobody out in the 6th. 4-0. Cuba on top. And threatening here, Xiaocheng Zhang in for China. The Hope Stars, his team in 2016.
What you want if your team China is just trying to figure out how you can get a win. If you win a game in a tournament, WBC, you're eligible for the next tournament. And if you don't win a game, you have to qualify. And that process has been expanded, and which I would imagine they're going to try to continue to expand it to involve more countries as baseball continues to grow around the world.
And that's why those 2 wins by China were so enormous in continuing to build the program. And we talked about Ray Chang and his dramatic hits, a home run in one of those. That was in the win over Chinese Taipei in 09, and it was Chang who beat Brazil late with a 2 RBI dramatic single in 2013. That got China into the next tournament. And that's the challenge for China here in this pool play. You have to take down a Titan in Japan or Cuba, or beat Australia. And Australia had to qualify. And obviously the Aussies' goal is to come here, compete, knock some people off. But you're right, a win gets you into the next World Baseball Classic.
4th pitcher for China, and remember later on tonight Japan will take on Australia. First game of the tournament for Australia.
Bouncer up the middle, Du on a flip, Wong with the turn, and China gets 2. Cuba cashes in a run.
Second double play of the game turned by China. Second baseman Du, very good fielder, shovels to Joey Wong coming across the bag. They get Cepeda, but a run comes in to score. It's now 5-0 for Cuba.
And that'll bring up Alfredo Despagne. Quiet game for Despagne. He's 1 for 2, a single, a walk. Nothing like the thunderous homer he hit last night. And that's, you know, the other aspect of this for, you know, baseball's not a sport where you can take over a game and just will yourself to dominate a game. And in a tournament like this, where the buildup is, you know, 4 years in the making, guys have a tendency to squeeze the bat a little tight, try to do too much.
Well, when you see the matchup, Cuba against China, you figure that, well, it's going to be a boat race. No chance at all for China to hang in there, but it's 5-0. Cuba got off to a slow start. They couldn't do anything, and they stranded 5 base runners early in the game. They were 0 for 5 at one point with runners in scoring position, and that's when the manager said, wait a minute. Carlos Marti called a little meeting after the top of the 4th inning out in front of the dugout, and bats came alive.
And you can see a wild swing there by Despagne. Into the scout section. Everybody hide the radar guns and the technology. You don't want to have that dinged up by a foul pop-up. There's plenty of scouts here. There are Japanese scouts, there's Korean scouts, and plenty of Major League Baseball scouts and executives here as well.
.77 miles an hour, and Rich, you know this, a veteran hitter like Despagne, it's tough for him to deal with pitches in the 70s, and we've even seen pitches in the 60s from Zhen here. Just 70 miles an hour, and boy, as a hitter, you really got to throttle things back. I mean, that's not even BP speed.
No. If it is, it's not the round you want to be in as a hitter. That's the usually the veteran coach that's throwing at the end of BP is bringing it in there around there. And so Despagne walks. Saavedra will come to the plate in a 5-0 Cuba lead. We talked about our game tonight. This place will be, you know, the amazing thing about, and it was a reminder to our experience in 13, is how early the Japanese fans get to the ball game. There were a lot of people in here about an hour and a half before the game last night. And all around this Tokyo Dome area, there's shops and restaurants and amusement park and all of that. This place, as early as 2:30, 3 o'clock yesterday. Had a lot of fans down here eating in line, ready to come in. Many of them dressed with their Samurai Japan jerseys and their officially licensed World Baseball Classic Samurai Japan hats.
Well, and it's going to be a big night tonight, not only because Team Japan's playing, but the starter, Tomoyuki Sugano, is a Yomiuri Giant pitcher. He's the ace of their staff, so he is the big attraction tonight. And standing room only tickets have been on sale all morning long, and you can bet this place will be rocking again tonight when they take on Team Australia.
Do you think we could maybe sell 2 or 3 spots in the booth?
I don't think we could squeeze another person in the booth, no matter what the cost.
Pitches up and in.
Sugano, the starter, lost out in the Japanese equivalent of the Cy Young Award this year to a foreigner, Chris Johnson. For the first time since 1964, a foreigner won the Sawamura Award as the most valuable pitcher in the Japanese professional leagues.
No swing. That's Larry Vanover, everybody, down at first base. Major League Baseball supplies usually a trio of umpires over here in Asia in a pool round. And then you mix in a lot of the international umpires. We have 2 international umpires in this game. Runner goes, swing and a miss, and the throw down ends up in center field. And Despagne showing everybody that he can still run. Swipes a bag.
Gets into scoring position with 2 outs, and Wei Wong has been just short of the mark at second. That's the 3rd stolen base for Team Cuba here this afternoon.
Saavedra sitting on a 3-2 pitch with 2 outs in the 6th. And he chases. And nice sequence for Chao-Sheng Zheng. Oh, there's your lunch. Wait a minute, sold out. Outrage. All right, game summary of this one. This is Vladimir Baños, and he was brilliant in his 5 innings. Outstanding starter. The bats were quiet, and then Carlos Marti called a meeting.
Had a meeting after the top of the 4th, and the bats came alive. Cespedes drove in the first run with a single off the wall. Santos had a 2-run trip. Ayala drove in a run, and they broke out for a 4-run inning after the manager said, hey, fellas, trying to do too much. Just be patient, get a good pitch to hit, and it turned into a 4-run inning.
Ray Chang takes a fastball and fouls it back. Vladimir Garcia is the pitcher now. You went from Vladimir to Vladimir, Baños to Garcia. Chang hit a deep drive to left center that was run down by Despagne back in the 4th. He's 0 for 2. It's odd to, I mean, I know you do this with the Olympics, but in baseball, it's really odd to say, you know, Buck, 4 years ago, Chang had a big tournament. 8 years ago, he had the big hit to beat Chinese Taipei. In World Baseball Classic play, he's hitting 350 or whatever. Because, I mean, look, it's been 4 years.
Yeah, it's
So
a long
it's
span
a long
in between
time.
tournaments, and obviously Team China, Team Australia, they don't get play an awful lot. They don't play many games. We talked to the manager for Team Australia, John Diebel, and this will be his 4th World Baseball Classic, and he said, you know, I think we've played 5 games in a span of 12 months as a team.
Right. Now, his players play in other leagues and in other international stuff, or in the Australian Baseball League. In China's case, in Chinese baseball, they have 8 teams in their league. Chang drills that to center. Santos is there, and he makes the catch.
Team Australia is very interesting as they have quite a cast of characters and they draw from all walks of life. John Diebel was telling us he has an Uber driver, got a couple of firemen, got some truck drivers.
2 carpet layers.
2 carpet layers, and one thing that brings them all together, chance to represent Australia.
All right, I think I can get you you know, between games, I might run out and get you a Matsuda jersey, although there might not be many left.
They're flying off the shelf right now after a big night last night.
3-run homer, and he was 4 for 5.
Nobuhiro Matsuda, the third baseman, had a terrific night.
If you could pick a jersey on that Japanese team, who would you sport? Liner into right center field. Santos runs it down.
If I could pick a jersey off of that team, I would go with Seiji Kobayashi. And you would know naturally I would do that.
That's right. You have an affinity for good backstops.
For 200 hitting catchers. He had a big night last night.
He did.
He had a base hit, a sacrifice bunt, a sacrifice fly, picked up an RBI, and he scored a run.
And in the 9th spot, he was 2 for 3. He was asked to bunt a couple times. And I looked this morning online to see if there's a Japanese version of Brian Kenny who might rant against that, but I didn't find it. And as the at-bat would turn out, he'd end up getting 1 hit and a sacrifice bunt. That's dropped by the shortstop. And it's going to be an E6, but a base runner, Shuni Yang, is aboard.
Yeah. Hey, Allen at shortstop just got nonchalant. You can see he bobbles it and then finally drops it, and that'll be another error charged to Team Cuba. That's their 4th error in 2 games. That has been a concern. Defense hasn't been really on its toes so far in this tournament.
In all seriousness about advanced stats, though, we asked some people familiar with the Japanese game, and they are used mostly in evaluation and scouting and development. And as we've talked about, we haven't seen from Team Japan a lot of defensive shifting as elaborate or as extensive as we've seen in Major League Baseball over the last 3-4 years.
Well, it's very difficult when you're facing hitters you haven't seen that often to really overshift, because you don't know how they hit in general. You can have a generalized report, well, they an opposite field hitter, but you can't be as specific as Major League teams are, where they can literally see every at bat for the last 4 or 5 years, every pitch, velocity, speed, and they can match it up against their pitchers. So when you have that kind of consistency, you can really set up defenses very effectively. But I would expect, and I think you're going to start to see it a little bit this year, where hitters are going to start to make some adjustments and say, you know what, this is ridiculous. I'm hitting the ball right on the button, and there's 6 guys standing over there where I hit it. Might see a few more guys choking up, putting the ball on the bat, and taking advantage of those gaping holes in the defense.
Joey Wong takes in. Shuni Yang is at first base. So there is a need for a Brian Kenny type over here to spread the word.
Absolutely. Well, they're going to bunt, and we saw that bunt attempt you were talking about from the catcher. Kobayashi came in the 4th inning with 1 out. He bunted 2 balls foul and then got a base hit. So teams in this tournament will generally think about bunting early on.
Well, I mean, the lesson for Cuba coming out of last night is 1 loss does not ruin your tournament. It just turns up a little bit of pressure. And Cuba has responded, but coming out here and has a 5-0 lead over China in the 7th.
Well, and I think personally for me, this was the biggest challenge for them after losing and then turning around and coming right back. They had to get a lead in this ball game. They won't play again until Friday here in Tokyo when they meet up against Australia.
And by the way, it's Wednesday here right now. Both of us had to check this morning to make sure.
What day is it?
You lose a day coming out and you gain a day going back. Wong swings and misses, ball in the dirt. Morejon picks and throws and gets him. And the inning is over for China. Lunchtime in Tokyo. 2017 World Baseball Classic. We are in Tokyo. Rich Waltz along with Buck Martinez. What a great city this is. So many things to do, so many places to go. And the Tokyo Dome is the center of attention right now. This an afternoon game between Cuba and China. Tonight, Team Japan is back in action. Another sellout, another wild party of baseball in the World Baseball Classic tonight as Japan takes on Australia. Last night, 45,000. Big night, big show, and some big home runs for Japan to take down Cuba. But Cuba is up off the canvas and up 5-0 in the bottom of the 7th against China. This guy was terrific last night, hitting 2 balls off the wall in center. And he's got 2 hits here. Beisbol Gracial, and he rips one to left field. Meng can't get it, bangs into the wall. And that's extra bases again for Gracial.
He had a couple of big doubles in last night's game in his final 2 at-bats, and he continues to swing the hot bat in this ball game. His 3rd hit of the game is a double, a line drive double that sails over the head of the left fielder. Meng's had a tough day in the outfield. These balls have been crushed to left field. He's not been able to read the velocity and the carry on these balls. You see him drifting back, just kind of drifts back and never gets back in time to make a catch. That was a catchable ball that you'd see major leaguers make a play on that.
Carlos Benitez. Remember 2013, Cuba had a very young and athletic double play combination out there as Ribel, Arrubaruena, and Alex Guerrero.
Also had a young second baseman named Jose Fernandez, who just signed with the Dodgers. Had a good-looking swing, a guy that could really play defensively at second base, and he's now a member of the Dodgers organization.
That's the voice of Carlos Marti, the 68-year-old manager for Cuba, who was the longest tenured manager in Cuban baseball. Diving stop, nicely done. That's due. And he gets Benitez. It moves Gracial to 3rd.
Well, Dew has made some good plays, and this infield has played very well for John McLaren. Dew lays out, gets to his feet very quickly, and makes an easy play on his counterpart, Carlos Benitez, the Cuban second baseman. Of course, they turned a terrific double play to get Bruce Chen out of a jam, and it came on Chen's 49th pitch of the game. If he hit that 50 pitch mark, he would have been done for the rest of this round.
And so what that means now is that John McLaren can bring Bruce Chen back probably in the game against Australia. And for McLaren, he's on his way out to the mound. And Chen told us before, there's no hesitation of him coming back to pitch again. He said, it's not like I'm getting ready for a major league season. I've worked out and been able to get back in shape, but it's just for this World Baseball Classic. So this is it for me. And this is it for Chao Chung Zheng. Pitching change, 5-0 Cuba. This is a really cool innovation that we discovered in 2013. We talked about the netting that protects the stands. There are seats, much like postseason seats in Major League Baseball, that come out in front of the netting. But the innovation is this. For those seats, and they call them the excitement seats, there is a glove, a helmet, and a little warning about balls that come into play. So you can put the helmet on, you can use the glove, but just make sure you leave it before you go home.
Yeah, and they'll be there for game 2 in this doubleheader today. And in between innings, the ball boy walks with a sign saying, pay attention to foul balls. They come in there very quickly. So the constant reminder that you're sitting in the excitement seats and don't fall asleep.
You know, the other thing we saw, and have seen is that a lot of the ushers in the stands down the right and left field lines have whistles. And if a ball is off the bat and headed in that direction, those whistles go off and everybody snaps to attention. I like the fact that the netting is up and it goes from the dugout all the way down the right field line.
Yeah, it really extends all the way down the line, and it's really a safety factor, obviously.
1-1 pitch. Morejon gets into one and drives it to left center field, and it's in the gap and it's going to the wall. Frank Morejon has driven home a run, and Cuba extends their lead.
Well, the veteran catcher, that is his first hit of the tournament. He's the starter, their regular catcher, and he comes up with a big RBI double here. He didn't like the strike call on the previous pitch, curveball, but he gets a fastball and drills it to the wall in center field. He has been a veteran of many international tournaments for the national team, and he is one of the leaders on this team. The veteran catcher, Frank Morejon.
Yoelka Cespedes was an RBI single, 1 for 3 after a big night last night. Curveball is a strike. Here's a look at Menghao Wang. The Sichuan Dragons, his home team.
42 strikeouts, 26 walks. One thing that's been pretty impressive from these pitchers for Team China, they found the strike zone. They haven't issued a whole lot of walk. They've walked 4, and they've walked the right guys, that's for sure. They've walked Cepeda and Despaigne. They've pitched around the power hitters in this lineup, but they've shown pretty good command and the ability to throw strikes. I think that's an improvement from what we saw in 2013.
Last at bat, I asked you about Cespedes from a scout's perspective. How close is he to Major League ready?
Well, it's very difficult to tell over a short span. We've just seen him for 2 games, but look at how he stands in the box. My former coach, the late Charlie Lau, says he looks hitterish. Looks like he's going to get a hit. You've seen guys like that standing at the plate. We saw it in last night's game with Setsugo. In his last at bat, it looked like he was really on every pitch. He ended up hitting a 2-run home run. Well, Cespedes looks hitterish right now. He has been calm and patient throughout both of these games so far. Pretty impressive for a 19-year-old.
And I think that's why you see so many scouts here today to see this 19-year-old. That breaking ball is up. He's the half-brother of Yoenis.
And he has talked to his brother a lot about preparation for this tournament, and Yoenis told him, be patient. Don't get too excited. Let them come to you, get a good pitch to hit, and so far that advice has paid off. Remember, this kid's 19 years old.
I know, he's
playing a world tournament, and you can see how calm he is. You and I had a chance to visit with him 2 days ago.
Well, look, there's pressure playing professionally in Cuba, and he started when he was 17. Gets under that one and lifts it to left. And that's the second out. Wei Chang Meng makes the catch. Roel Santos, remember, made the 2 brilliant catches last night. Today, it's been all about the offense. He's a home run away from the cycle. Look at this guy, slash and go.
And then in the 3rd inning, with a couple aboard, he drills one to deep center and races around the bases with an RBI 2-run triple. And then watch this. He slaps this ball into center, keeps his head up, and hustles around the bases into second with a head-first slide. Single, triple, double, a home run away from the cycle, as Rich mentioned.
Now, our research staff, which is drawn from around the globe in this World Baseball Classic, is efforting to find if there has ever been a cycle in World Baseball Classic history, and I don't think there has been.
It doesn't come to my mind off the top of my head. I mean, there have been a lot of great accomplishments in the history of this Classic, but I can't remember their talk of a player collecting a cycle in the tournament.
Breaking ball is up to Santos. He's 29. played for Granma, the Serie Nacional champ, and Carlos Martí is their manager, and so both Santos and Cespedes playing for their manager here in the World Baseball Classic. And the inning ends. Cuba adds a run and leads it 6-0. Let's go get a glove, Buck. Levon Moinelo is the lefty in a 6-0 Cuba lead. And he arrives in the 8th. Moinelo will be working with a new catcher as well. Cuba putting some fresh legs out there.
Remember, this is Vasquez, the new catcher, giving Frank Morejon the rest of the afternoon off. This is Jefferson Delgado taking over at third for Graciel. So some of the extra men getting a chance to get on the field here.
And a strike to open up the inning.
Moinelo is one of the late inning pitchers that Cuba's going to rely on in close situations. He gets a chance to get some work in this 6-0 ball game.
Now, in the culture, in China's culture, when you say a person's name, usually the surname comes first, first name comes last, the family name comes first, the first name comes last. And so for us, though, instead of Wong Wei, it's Wei Wong. His first, in our culture, first name is Wei. Now, when he joined the team and his teammates found out about his name, he quickly became nicknamed Wrong Way. And he's kept that nickname throughout his career, his international experience. Likes the nickname. And if you've, you know, we have a chance to watch this team work out, batting practice, be around them. And it's a lot of fun to see these players who don't have the type of baseball experience that other nations have still come together in the World Baseball Classic, treat each other as teammates, develop great relationships, and in this guy's case, help really be a pioneer in China for a long career. A swing and a miss, and a good fastball there.
Well, and the one thing that John McLaren really wanted to emphasize to this team was, hey, have fun. Baseball was meant to be fun. Don't make it so serious that you're really uptight. And he and his coaches have done a great job of reminding the team every single day. He's got Dave Bush, a former Major League pitcher, as his pitching coach. He's got Jim Johnson, a long-time shortstop in the minor leagues with Houston. He's been a manager in the minor leagues for 12 seasons, so they've got some experience. And one thing they've tried to do is make this an enjoyable, fun time for these Chinese baseball players playing in the World Baseball Classic.
Breaking ball misses down low. Jaewon Lee is the hitter. And that's kind of the spirit of having fun, or the nicknames. McLaren said when he arrived, he knew everybody's name by nicknames.
He gave them names that he could remember and relate to,
and
according to their talent.
And pronounce.
Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio. He had a whole list of names that he could say, okay, I can remember this guy. He's got some skills, a little bit of outfield. Okay, I'm going to name him Mickey Mantle so I can remember from day to day.
And you can tell, even though there is somewhat of a language barrier between their manager and their players, they love him. They know that this is a guy that has gone out of his way while also keeping a major league coaching career going to help develop baseball in their country.
Well, it's quite a commitment for managers. You obviously travel to China, and John has done that. And during spring training, he has gone down to see some of the Asian players who have traveled to Arizona for spring training. And he recruited a young pitcher that's going to pitch in this tournament from the Korean baseball organization. Pitches for the KT Wiz. So it's a full-time commitment for sure.
History of baseball is not real deep. 1872, just a little bit. First game played in 05. Never really took off. And that middle note there, the chairman labels baseball as the evil Western influence and bans the sport. But Peter O'Malley, we talked about the stadium that he helped build. And from that point, Jim Lefevre going over. Terry Collins also managing internationally with China.
Well, Bruce Hurst has been a pitching coach for a couple of different tournaments, and Art Howe.
That was the coaching
manager.
The coaching staff in 13. Art Howe was the bench coach.
Yep.
Bruce Hurst was the pitching coach. Liner to right, it's tailing and it's foul. And you hear the whistles? Those are the ushers down that right field line alerting the fans.
It's coming in your direction. Levan Moinello, slender lefty. He's got some strikeout abilities, and they get into this tournament a little deeper, and next game will be against Australia. They look to him to get some big outs late in the game. Of course, this is just an opportunity to get his feet on the ground in this tournament. Team China came over to Japan and they played 3 exhibition games, but they got to experience some of the culture here in Japan. They traveled around a little bit in between their workouts and exhibition games. They actually saw an active volcano in the south of Japan.
And didn't Bruce Chen tell us it's the first time he's been here?
Yeah, Bruce Chen, first time he's been to Japan, and he's of course got his family here. So not only do you get to experience great baseball, you get to experience a totally different culture.
One foul back to the screen. And the count 2-2. 2 outs. Tokyo Dome will be jumping again tonight. A sellout crowd for Japan and Australia. We need to get our hands on a couple copies of the lyric sheets for the individual player chants.
That'll happen tonight when Japan takes on Australia.
And maybe slide one in the pile for you, Buck. Maybe get a Buck Martinez chant or song. The equivalent of the walk-up song.
That lasts the entire at bat.
That's
it's just
the
not
difference.
A walk-off chant.
Right, it's not. And they really don't start the song until a guy gets in the box and is settled in.
And it gets more intense as the at bat continues. And certainly these fans here anxious for game 2 of this doubleheader.
Xiaowei Du takes down low and he works a walk out of the 9 spot. And it will bring up Zhenhong Lu, the leadoff hitter for China. China's base runner is their 4th of the ball game. A couple walks, an error, and a base hit. Just 1. And it looks like a pinch hitter.
Correction, the batter is number 62,
Yangpeng Chen is the hitter. And I do apologize if my pronunciations aren't spot on.
Well, we've done our best trying to get the pronunciations of all of these players on the team, and they have PR directors that work with each and every team. And
let me try that again. Yangpeng Chen, I think, is closer to We were debriefed and went through our pronunciations with the representatives from the Chinese teams.
Chen is an outfielder that's in the Major League Baseball Development Center in China.
Swing and a miss there. The throw down to first is in time to get the out and end the inning. Cuba dealing a shutout so far. Tonight, this place gets lit. Nobuhiro Matsuda, Yoshitomo Tsutsugo, and 45,000 will be here. That's tonight. That's Australia and Japan, 7 o'clock Tokyo time.
Tomoyuki Sugano, big ace for the local team, the Yomiuri Giants, will toe the rubber for Team Japan. It'll be posed by Tim Atherton, a former Minnesota Twins farmhand, big right-hander trying to come back from a shoulder injury.
Smoked to center and caught there. Cuba getting it at bat there. Mandalay, Jordan Mandalay. And there's, you know, fans are starting to show up, find their seats. And I would expect, Buck, if we poke our heads outside of the Tokyo Dome, there's going to be a large crowd.
You know, what's really interesting is the crowd really kind of reflects the makeup of a soccer crowd with the scarves and the uniforms and the chants, and it's like all game long.
No hooligans, though, here.
No hooligans. But it's a very upbeat atmosphere for sure, and you can bet they're looking forward to this.
Cepeda bounces out. There's your starting pitcher. He's here, right?
Those are the jersey, and they've sold a ton of those things.
It's a nice touch that the Thunder sticks are pinstriped, like the Japanese uniforms. And this is a look here. We saw him last night late at Victor Mesa. Mesa is the son of the great manager and great Cuban star. And he has a brother named Victor Jr., and so he sometimes goes by Victor Mesa. And Mesa reaches out and scorches one in the gap, and he can really run as well. It's going to the wall. Mesa on his way to second, and he's got a double. Maybe that'll earn him some playing time later in the tournament.
Just 20 years old, he plays for Villa Clara in Cuba, and he got that high breaking ball, and he turned on it and drove it to the alley in left center. He too, like Cespedes, really looks like a hitter when he steps in the batter's box, and he gets a double in his first AB here in the World Baseball Classic.
Mesa hitting into Spagne's spot. Cuba sending up some pinch hitters, getting some at bats. A guy that had a hit last night is Guillermo Aviles.
Aviles had a big pinch hit at bat in that ball game last night. It came in the 7th inning, and he had a 2-out single to drive in 2 runs.
And when it's rolled out to second, Zhao Ledu makes the play. And Cuba is done, a 6-0 lead, and this game heads to the 9th. Well, Cuba has 6 runs. China has had their moments in this game. But China down to their last 3 outs.
Well, Carlos Marti, he made a Good move in the middle of this game. In the fourth inning, it was scoreless going to the bottom of the fourth, and he called his team out in front of the dugout and said, "Hey, fellas, I don't like the way you're approaching your at-bats, and let's do something different." And they responded very quickly with a 4-run inning in the bottom half of the fourth inning, and they've added runs in the 6th and the 7th. So Marte, he knows his team very well, and now he's getting a chance to see one of his closers work here tonight, Miguel Lajera. Lajera, a veteran.
Fujia Chu pulls it foul. Chu is 0 for 3.
Lajera's 32 years old, and he is a guy that has pitched a lot in international competition. He pitched in Beijing in the 08 Olympics when Cuba won a silver medal. He's normally a starter, but in the Cuban Championship this past season, they converted him to a reliever, and he pitched very well for Granma, who was managed by Carlos Martin.
Chu strikes out. And Ray Chang will get his 3rd at bat. Chang's hit the ball hard twice and has nothing to show on an 0 for 3 day.
China will play Australia tomorrow night. Only one game tomorrow in Pool B here in Tokyo. And then they will meet the host Japan team on Friday night.
Another double-header day here on Friday with Cuba and Australia playing that early game, and then China and Japan the late game. Ray Chang, not a lucky day. I mean, you're talking about 3 balls that he's barreled up, including that one. But as the baseball player in him will tell him, he's swinging the bat well.
Yeah, he is. He's had 3 real good at-bats, and his last 3 at-bats, he's hit the ball right on the nose all 3 times. That doesn't make you feel any better when you go back to the bench.
No. Wei Chang Meng now. And China's down to their last out. And so Cuba's going to even their record at 1-1. This is Guiyang Shu. My apologies. Pinch hitting for Wei Chang Meng.
John McLaren trying to get everybody an at-bat in this game. He is responsible for making sure everybody gets an opportunity. Bruce Chen started it. Did a pretty good job. He went 2 1/3 with 49 pitches, allowed just 3 hits and kept it scoreless. They kept Cuba off the scoreboard until the 4th.
2-2. Just that one base hit that came back in the 5th. Shuni Yang. And he actually stole second. But China couldn't get him over and get him in. 2-2. And it's low. That's well hit. But Avila is there, and he gets to the bag, and Cuba gets their first win of 2017 in the World Baseball Classic. Carlos Marti looks a lot happier than he did last night in the loss to Japan. And so Cuba is 1-1. Vladimir Baños, who had a perfect game going through 4 1/3, ended up giving up just the one hit. He gets the win for Cuba.
Well, and the big thing, too, now Cuba has a day off. They won't play again until Friday, while China will tee it up again tomorrow night. John McLaren's team will face Australia tomorrow night in the only game. So there are the standings as we speak. Japan 0-1. Cuba now has evened their record at 1-1, and China 0-1 with the loss here this afternoon.
And so Cuba, who got a little momentum at the end of last night when they started to score some runs and hit the ball hard, continues that here, and obviously they hope to carry that through here in Pool B and get themselves to the next round and earn the right to stay here for that second round right here in Tokyo. Another great crowd, another wild scene tonight with Japan and Australia, 7 o'clock here in Tokyo. There's your final. Cuba, a winner, a shutout win over China. The Cubans win it for Buck Martinez. I'm Rich Waltz. Our entire crew will see you later tonight from Tokyo.